With recent power grid issues like Texas saw during the Snowmageddon in 2021, and with the Nord Stream pipeline attack, which will impact Europe's ability to get critical energy this winter, many are waking up to the fact that winter could be a very difficult time if you're not prepared. In this video, we're going to cover 24 items that you can get now that will ensure you can make it through should the unthinkable happen. If this is the first time we met, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to break down the various items that you would want to have on hand if a winter storm were to come through, take down the power, your gas, and you're stuck in your home without the ability to heat. And what would you want on hand? I've talked to several friends that went to the Texas Snowmageddon last year, and a lot of these items that we're going to introduce would be basic items that you would want to have on hand. If you've been preparing for any length of time, a lot of this is overlap with other gear that you probably already have. And these can also be useful in other situations. At the time of recording this video, for example, Hurricane Ian is going through Florida, wreaking havoc, and a lot of these things would be useful to have in the aftermath of that disaster. So what we'll do is I'll go through the items, we'll break them down by category. If you want to check out any of the items, I'll put links in the description section below. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first discussion deals with safety, and I'm going to start. The first item that I would recommend is a simple carbon monoxide alarm. As you can see, this is battery operated, so of course if the power is out, we're not going to be able to keep that plugged in, but using this would be incredible, or having this on hand is incredibly important. Whether you're running a generator outside your house, or even if a neighbor's running a generator, having that peace of mind knowing that the area that you're in is safe, to me, it's invaluable. The next item up is a fire extinguisher. Please don't get the small kind that are the size of a can of hairspray. Spend a little extra, get something like this. I know at Costco they sell 2 for a pretty reasonable price. After a disaster, whether you're using open flames or even if your neighbor, if you're in an apartment next door, you don't know what they're doing. So having a fire extinguisher would be critically important to prevent something from getting out of control. The next item up is painter plastic sheeting and duct tape. Now, the reason we want these is to create a vapor lock between our room that we're trying to keep warm and our windows. A lot of modern homes, they do have double pane windows. The older single pane windows aren't as efficient. You would definitely want something like that on these, but even if you do have double pane windows, you can have leaks around the edges. So sealing this off, it keeps our room warm, and we reduce that cold air coming in through the windows, that heat that can escape that way. Now, if the room that you retreat to, and we'll talk about this momentarily, going to a smaller room, if the room doesn't have any type of door, let's say something like a kitchen, you could hang this over the entrance in between the warm room that you're working on and then the rest of the house. Now, also, if you live in a 2-story house, obviously hot air goes up. So we want to be able to hang something like this up in the area where the stairs are, if that's possible, to prevent the hot air from leaving the area that we're in. All right, let's talk about sleeping bags, quilts, wool blankets. Obviously, for in a cold environment, we want these items to stay warm. At night, when we go to sleep, having this pad on the ground, if we retreat to a tent in a room, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but having a well-rated sleeping bag. This one's rated for about 15 degrees, but that doesn't mean that it's going to keep you warm down to 15. So again, having these items that we can get in during the day will be important. And again, if you sleep on the floor, if you get in a tent, please do not sleep directly on the floor. Have some type of pad or blanket that goes underneath you. Here we have an electric heating pad. If you have an electric blanket, these are great options. Now, of course, you can ask, well, hey, if the power's out, how are we going to operate these? We'll talk a minute about using a gas or a solar generator, but these are great. They draw a low amount of power. These will keep your body warm, especially if you throw this in a sleeping bag at night, put this inside, you're going to be able to keep your body temperature at a relatively warm temperature. With regards to emergency foil blankets, a lot of times you'll see on the news when first responders show up, they'll wrap these around individuals. They're small, they're cheap, they can reflect up to 90% of your body heat. If you were to line, for example, even your clothing with something like this, it will reflect back the heat. So at an affordable price point, these could be invaluable. Another incredibly useful item to keep yourself warm is some type of hot water bottle, a thermos. This is a clean canteen. If I were to fill this up with hot water, I wouldn't want to grab it because that would get extremely hot, but if I wrapped a small hand towel or some type of towel around this, it'd be great to transfer heat back to my body. I could put this inside my jacket, my sleeping bag. It would be very, very useful, and of course, drinking hot liquids throughout the day to keep my body temperature up. Toward the end of the video, we'll talk about retreating to a small room. The goal in going to a small room is to create a microclimate that we can control much easier to stay warm. But within that environment, having something like a tent would be extremely useful, especially at nighttime. If you're all getting in, this is a small 4-man tent, using our sleeping bags, blankets, whatever, pile in. These could actually trap about a 10 to 15 degree difference between this environment and the room around you. So again, just having this small kind of a shelter within a shelter to retreat to would be very useful. If you don't have a sleeping bag, you can take something like a coffee table or a kitchen table, throw blankets over, drape them over, everybody get underneath, and again, you create that microclimate that you can warm up. It goes without saying that we're gonna want warm clothing, but it's not about just tossing on a jacket. We want warm clothing that we can layer. In particular, we've got some thermals here, pants, long sleeve shirt. I've got a fleece cap, got a pair of gloves, and then got some nice thick warm socks. If you find yourself in a situation where you're still cold, just keep layering. Again, don't just toss on a large jacket and assume that's going to do the trick. We want to layer and lock in that heat. Now, if you do get cold, get up, move around, do calisthenics, push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, do something, move, keep that warmth trapped inside. All right. The Mr. Heater Buddy. This one is very popular for individuals that want to run a small propane heater inside. You can use something like a small propane bottle that you can add here on the side. This also has the option of an adapter, a hose that you can run to a tank. We'll talk about that momentarily. These are designed to be used safely inside of a confined area. I don't know, again, if I were to run this inside, I would either, the first one that we brought up, the first item is a carbon monoxide detector. I would have that used or rather set up next to it. Probably still would want a cracked window. These have safety devices. If they tip over, they'll turn off. If they detect low oxygen, they'll turn off. So they're really designed to be used for this particular application. But again, make sure that you have safety backups just in case something is not working correctly. The last items that we'll talk about for actively staying warm is propane tanks. These are the rechargeable kind that you can go down and get filled up. You can, of course, I've got a few off the side here, the kind that you would hook up to your barbecue grill. Again, you can get those at your local Home Depot, Lowe's. These are more of your camping size, smaller. I mean, when it comes down to costs, I would recommend just getting a tank, something again like at Home Depot, having it charged versus buying a bunch of these. And I say that because if you were to use an adapter, you could connect this to your Mr. Buddy, or rather Mr. Heater Buddy. You could use this for your camping stove, which we'll talk about momentarily. But again, having these tanks lined up now, charged and ready to go, these can last up to 25 years once they're charged. I've got some from 4 or 5 years ago that I still use, work great. All right, let's move to the next category of lighting. For lighting, I'm gonna introduce a few different options here. We've got our lantern, we've got just a standard hand flashlight, we've got headlamps. Personally, these are my favorite, just freeing up your hands. And these lights that right here, I'll show you these two. These are actually solar chargeable. You can put them out during the daytime, recharge them. They also have USB ports you can plug in and charge them up. Again, just your standard handheld dedicated flashlights. Both of these can be recharged via USB, and we'll talk about charging a little more in the video. And again, just your standard headlamps. One's battery operated, or you can, AAA batteries, and then one's USB. The next one up is tea candles. Apart from the obvious use of lighting, these can be used to provide warmth. I've seen videos online where people put these under clay pots and it radiates off the heat. I have mixed feelings about adding elements that could have safety issues, especially after disaster. I would just say, hey, stick with some of the other heating options that we discussed that are much more designed than trying to rig something up and cause a fire unnecessarily. But tea lights could be very useful. Now, we just talked about tea lights, and one device I would say if you are going to use tea lights, go ahead and spring for something like this. This is a UCO just lantern. As you can see here in the bottom, I didn't take the tape off, but we've got a tea candle in here. And I would feel much more safe, I would say, using some type of a candle option if I had a dedicated device that keeps it enclosed and a little more safe. And lastly, when we talk about lighting, I'll introduce a propane lantern. I've had this one for years. I've camped with it. You can screw it on top of the propane gas tank, and they're great. Again, I'm slowly moving away from anything that requires propane or any type of open flame or flame in general. My choice is LED lighting when possible, but something that could be very useful. Now let's talk about the next category, which is cooking. And the first item that I'm going to introduce is some type of camping stove. I've had this one since 2004, used it on a lot of camping trips. Pretty simple, you just flip these legs over and the top will come up, and then we've got our stove tops underneath here. And earlier we introduced a small little screw-on bottle tank, propane tank. These work with these. And again, if I was, power's out, no propane, no gas is coming into the house, having this option to be able to cook food would be so important. The next one up is food. Now, what I recommend is eat what's in your refrigerator first, because it's gonna go bad, the perishable food. You can, obviously if it's cold, keep the food outside if need be, but eat that first. Then we wanna go over to something like canned chili, canned soup, anything that's easy to warm up and to prepare that brings your body temperature up. I'm showing you MREs and freeze-dried food simply because these are extremely easy. Just add hot water for this one. These have self-heating elements inside that will heat up the food for you. So I'm just trying to avoid a lot of cooking, cleaning. I'm not expecting to eat a gourmet meal if the power's down. So think easy. That's not going to require a lot of cooking and cleanup. For the next category, let's talk about water. This is a small water storage container. I've got a lot of these around the house. I typically rotate them about every 5 years. I'll fill them, throw in the back of a closet. If the house were to get very cold, power's out, I would put these in the area that we're staying in, because obviously, one, I don't want them to freeze. Two, it will absorb the heat in the area. And if at night it gets colder, it can radiate the heat back out into the area that we're in. Now, again, some of these are stackable. I'll put some links to ones that I've used in the past, but for the price point and having that water backup would be invaluable for cooking, drinking, cleaning. The average human can only last 3 days without water. Typically, you want to have at minimum, and I'm talking bare minimum, 1 gallon per person per day, ideally 2 if possible, but again, make sure you have water on standby. For the next options, let's talk about communication. There's a few different options, well, there's several different options on the market, but let's just talk about the basics. Having some type of small portable AM, FM with the antenna, weather station, we can observe all this, would be invaluable to understand what's happening in the world around us. I'll put links to these. This one has a hand crank, flashlight. The solar is not really that great. You could, in a pinch, power, or rather charge up your cell phones. Take a lot of work, but it would work for that. So again, make sure you have an ability to understand what's happening in the world around you to stay updated. Let's move into the category of power. So much of our life is now dependent on communication, cell phones, staying up to date, but obviously that's going to need power, or rather we're going to have to power those things. This is a small portable solar panel. You could hook up easily a cell phone to this and charge it. I also recommend, if you're going to use this, go this route, have some type of small battery to charge your phone that you can hook up into this. It'll charge this. So if, let's say for example, we're not charging a cell phone and we still want that power backup, we can charge this during the day off this. These are great for small devices like our cell phones or tablets or other things that we would need. Next item up in the power category is something like a small portable solar generator. I've got a whole playlist dedicated to this on my channel. I'll link to in the description section below, along with the video showing the best solar generator options on the market at the moment. And there's so many options, but they're very expensive when you price in solar panels and everything else. But they're great for powering your smaller electronics, maybe a refrigerator depending on the size, but definitely worth looking into. When it comes to an internal combustion engine generator, I typically recommend something like a dual or tri-fuel generator that allows you to use gas or propane. I prefer propane because it can store for so long, typically up to 25 years, and having that on standby is just invaluable to me. Now, if you're going to use it, make sure you're very careful. If you're going to use it next to, let's say, your garage, don't use it next to any type of air intake or anything that would suck it in and draw it into your house. Combined with the first point carbon monoxide detector, just be very careful. When we talk about generators and powering devices, highly recommend you spring for a good quality extension cord. Now, this extension cord right here, it's good for light duty yard work, hooking up, something like a weed eater, but if we're powering different devices, this thing's going to heat up really quickly and can be a problem. I would spring for a much heavier, thicker extension cord. Obviously, this is 30 amp, this one's 20 amp or 15. We want the outlets on the end or have at least some kind of power strip. But all that to say, if you're going to run a generator, definitely spend the money and upgrade to a much thicker cord. Because again, if we're powering out different devices, These cheap, flimsy ones, yeah, definitely do not recommend them. For the last item and the last category, let's talk about damage prevention, and let's specifically talk about a faucet cover. Growing up, when it got cold at night, we would just, if it dropped below freezing, we would go out, put these on. You know, you just attach this to the faucet and pull it, tighten it off, and this will, let's say the faucet's here, this will just pull it over, lock it on, and create this, you know, insulating layer to protect our faucet head, our faucets from freezing over outside. Now, if you're in extended cold weather, I would recommend you probably want to think about switching off the water to your house, know where your shutoff valve is, and then draining out the pipes in your house, filling up the containers preferably first before you drain it out. But we don't want our pipes to rupture. A lot of people in Texas, when Snowmageddon hit, there's a lot of videos of ruptured pipes. Let's avoid that. Think ahead, use a little damage prevention with something like this. Before I end this video, I did want to point out what to do if the power actually goes out and we've got all these items on standby, we're ready to go. First thing you want to do is retreat to the smallest room that you can. Why the smallest? Well, the larger the room is, the more it's going to take to heat it up and to keep it comfortable. Now, ideally, if it was next to the kitchen or in the kitchen, that would be the preferable space where you cook, as obviously you're going to be able to be in that environment and radiate heat off while you're cooking. Now, the first thing I would do personally, if I knew the power went down and this is a big issue that it's going to be for a while, I would go to the room, begin to prep it and set it up, sealing off the windows like we talked about, getting everything, you know, shut the doors, just try to start warming that environment up as, you know, soon as possible. And again, using the radio that we talked about earlier, understand what's happening in your area, keep updated if your cell phone or whatever's not working. But all that to say, hopefully this gives you enough information to get you going on budgeting, preparing for the winter. Today is September the 29th. We're a few months off, so you got time. I know a lot of people are concerned about this coming winter due to past power outages. Europe right now is looking down kind of the barrel of a very precarious situation with Russia cutting off their fuel. So of course, a lot of people are thinking about this, but you can be prepared if you prepare now, and I encourage you to do so. If you have any feedback, any thoughts, any questions, feel free to post those below. And as always, stay safe out there.